It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today. I wanted to, I'm glad I connected with this brother that's coming on today. His name is Henry Washington, and Henry is the founder of Independence Realty Group. Has a real interesting story, and be careful how you comment on previous episodes because I may just pull you into the show, and that's kind of how we ended up connecting. And I found out a little bit more about him, and just a really, really nice guy. And he was kind enough. We had a chance to chat over the phone, and I said, "Man, I love your story. I love what you're doing here in Northwest Arkansas, and I want to share your story with our audience here at I Am Northwest Arkansas." There's always something new happening in this area. And more importantly, I think what you're doing with real estate is really interesting. So without further ado, want to welcome Henry Washington to the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So listen, I would love for you, we kind of start off our podcast with learning a little bit more about the person, right? Even when we talk to entities or companies and, whoever is representing that company, we want to learn a little bit more about them. So I'd love for you to share your superhero origin story with our audience. And you shared just a little bit with me a few minutes ago, but I'd love for you just to kind of give our audience a glimpse of who Henry Washington is.
Sure, man. Sure. So, as you stated, I'm the owner of Independence Realty Group. I've been in Northwest Arkansas for about 10 years, a little over 10 years now. I came here by way of Virginia, where I went to Hampton University. I was recruited to come and work for Walmart. And so I spent 9.5 years of my time here working for Walmart. I was born and raised in California. My mother and father both went to Hampton, so they met at Hampton where I went to school, and then I ended up going there. I was recruited to come here and work for Walmart. I spent most of my career in IT, in the IT industry, mostly software development and data analytics, and those were things that I enjoyed. I went to school for. It wasn't until maybe 3.5 years ago that I discovered this, passion for real estate and really kind of discovered, my purpose. And that came about just kind of through a panic, or concern. So I had, like I said, I worked for Walmart. I had a great job. Made great money, and spent a lot of that time here single. And then I met my wife and we got married pretty quick. And so I went from a single guy to a married man. And your priorities shift when you're talking about wife and family. And we were having conversations that married couples have. What does our dream house look like? What's our how many kids do we want to have? And I was having those conversations and was also realizing at the same time that I couldn't afford the lifestyle that I wanted to have, right? And the things that I felt like my family deserved. And so I knew I had to do something different, right? I needed different results. I needed to change my mindset. And so just kind of born from that panic was me Googling and searching for like side hustles and how do you make extra money and, and just things like that. And I kept coming across articles and stories and books about real estate and owning property and being a landlord. And it piqued my interest, man. My father always had a side business. He was a high school art teacher, right? And, the education space doesn't always pay phenomenally. And so he always had a side hustle going on. He had an arcade, a flower shop. We had a restaurant, a barbecue restaurant. And so I've always known that like you can have a side gig. I just never actually had one. And so when I started learning about real estate, I was like, cool, well, I'll just do that. I'll just buy some property, right? Just pure naivety, right? Just was like, yeah, I'll just do it. And then, stopped panicking and went back to sleep. And then, the next day I started talking to people about real estate investing, and had a friend who was a broker, and, she kind of gave me, some game at the time about, how ways you can get started, and she gave me some books to read, and those just inspired me more. And then from there, I decided, like, I just literally, when I say I decided, like, that's what I did. I just made a decision at that point that I was going to be a successful real estate investor. I didn't know how. I didn't know with what money. I didn't have any money at the time. I had about $1,000 in savings. Like, that was the extent of the money that I saved, right? And so, but I just decided that I was going to be successful doing it. I just enjoyed everything I was reading. I became this like sponge for knowledge about real estate. So I was reading books and listening to podcasts, going to real estate meetups, talking to people. Like, I just immersed myself in everything real estate. And that led me to, purchasing my first property. So it just snowballed from there, I guess you could say.
Well, man, I love that story. And like I said, as I was doing a little bit of research about you, I mean, you had kind of told how you got your first initial and money to put up to buy a piece of property, and how you've kind of snowballed it. And now you're talking about how to finance deals with little to no money out of pocket, utilizing small banks. And
that's right.
I mean, you've kind of run the gamut in a very short period of time. I mean, 36 plus months, and you've really made it happen quickly. Was there anything specifically about this area of Northwest Arkansas that made it such a fertile ground for you to kind of learn the ways of real estate investing, and then to grow it?
Yeah, man. Northwest Arkansas is I tell people, and it's a unicorn if you're a real estate investor, right? Because it's you've got low cost of living, right? Low entry point prices for homes when you compare it to other larger markets in the country, right? So you can still buy a house fairly inexpensively here because it's Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
But because it's Northwest Arkansas, you've got this booming economy. You've got the Walmarts and the J.B. Hunts and the Tysons, right? And all these corporations and all these subsidiary corporations who feed into these larger corporations all have, satellite offices here, right? So you've got this booming economy. You've got people constantly moving here, right? So you've got money churning in this community, but because you've got the people that desire to be here to work for these companies, right? You get higher rent prices. So it creates this like perfect storm for real estate investors where you can buy inexpensively and have great rent prices to supplement your investment in homes. So you can get cash flow on your real estate investments kind of from day one if you're careful about where and what you buy. And that's not the case in a lot of markets in the country, right? In California, you can't just buy a 3-bed, 2-bath house, rent it out for, $2,000 a month and expect to make money, right? But here you can do those kinds of things. And so it's a great market to live in, right? Because you've got people all over the country that want to invest here because of the opportunity that it provides.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you have syndicate investors that want to come in here and buy up real estate, just like they were kind of doing. I don't know. Well, you may or may not remember, but you were just getting out of school. But 2 years after you graduated from Hampton, that's when we had the financial crisis. And I'm a little older than you. And I remember a bunch of my friends that put a little syndicate together and then went up and bought half of Detroit. Right. So in the same way that Dan Gilbert bought all of downtown Detroit, right? So Dan Gilbert's the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cavs,
a lot of my friends were just going up and buying blocks of homes, literally blocks of homes in Detroit, in the Detroit suburbs, and in Detroit proper as well. And so, that was that's kind of how things were during the financial meltdown. But we're not currently in that state. But I'm surprised at how strong the real estate market has been here. And that's really what's blown me away in terms of what it's been like. And since I've been here, I moved here in 2014, and I have some other friends that are in real estate here. I have a really good friend, Mark Zweig, who has done a lot of the same things that you've done with regard to, buying property with no money down, leveraging the bank, taking assets off of their books by purchasing property, and a lot of opportunities that exist that you honestly, with just a little bit of elbow grease and hard work and research, you can find deals that almost seem like they're too good to be true.
I mean, that's 100% true. I tell people all the time, when they hear about the kinds of deals that we buy, you can't believe those deals are out there, and they just take work, right? You have to put in the work to find the good deals, right? And finding good deals requires you, for the most part, to buy deals that are off-market deals, right? If you can just call a realtor and buy a great deal, right? Everybody would be wealthy investors, right? So they require some level of work, right, and some level of uncomfortability in order to land those deals. And so that's the thing I think I learned pretty quickly as I was going to different real estate investor meetings locally, and as I was talking with other investors, everybody kept saying, man, it's hard to find good deals. It's hard to find good deals. I can't find a deal, right? I'd buy something if there were some good deals. And so that, to me, every business is formed from what problem can you solve, right? And so to me, the problem was, how do you find good deals? And if I could solve that problem, I knew that I would always have income. Because if I can find good deals, I've got people I bump into all the time who say they want to buy them. So for me, the goal became, how do I build a business around finding good deals?
Yeah, no, and that's funny. It's funny you say that, because actually the first house that when we first moved here, we rented for a little less than a year because we weren't sure where we wanted to live. So we lived south of town in Fayetteville, down by the golf course. Then we bought a duplex, and that duplex was never on the market. So when you say off-market deals, I was literally driving around a subdivision. I saw a guy out in front of the duplex. I drove up to him. I introduced myself, and we became fast friends. And he was like, well, I'm actually thinking about selling this place. And honestly, we wrote up the deal literally within a couple of days of me meeting with him, put the money down, and I closed on it like 30 days later.
Yes, man, that is the way you do it, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a bit of a hustle, because honestly, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And, you can kind of get sucked in if you move here to Northwest Arkansas and you're not from here. We have a bunch of beautiful subdivisions.
Yeah.
And you can get sucked into saying, oh, well, I just want to go get a really nice single family, which you can do here. And your money will go much further than it will in a lot of other markets around the country. But I remember Dr. Joe Daniels, who is a friend of yours, a mutual friend of ours, as well as a former guest on this podcast. And we were talking about, he was just sharing with me his whole focus on trying to get a couple of pieces of income property before he goes to get that single family. And I think for young people listening to this, it actually might be sagely advice and wisdom, to buy a couple of pieces of turnkey rental property that you can live in for a short period of time, and then eventually get that single family instead of just jumping right out to get that single family right off the bat. Would you agree with that?
100%. I tell people all the time, if you want to get started, start with your own home. It's the easiest way to do it, right? And it's exactly what you said. People come here, they get these great jobs at one of these great companies, they're making this great salary, and the first thing they want to go do is, buy the beautiful house, right? I'm guilty of that too. I did that. That's what I did when I got here. I bought the house, right, with my new wife. And then as I started learning about real estate, I realized, man, I think I went about this all wrong. And so my wife, God bless her heart, she trusts me with all she's got. I talked her into selling the house that we just designed and built. I was like, let's sell it. Let's take a little bit of money we can get out of it, and let's go buy a duplex. We'll live in half, we'll rent the other half. And then now we'll be living almost, rent or mortgage free. Most people's biggest expense is their housing expense, right?
Right. Yeah.
And with real estate, you can eliminate that, right? Again, it'll require you to get a little bit uncomfortable, right? But it's not as uncomfortable as people think it is, right? Having a duplex and having your tenant live next door to you isn't the end of the world. You're gonna have somebody next door to you somewhere,
Right.
right?
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're your tenant or not. There's all these myths about being a landlord and all the headaches it can cause, and the reality is, yeah, there can be some headaches, but there's always a solution to a problem, right? It's not, none of it's the end of the world. And, if somebody told you you might have to deal with a headache every once in a blue moon, but you won't have to pay a mortgage, would you do it? Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like, so there's, absolutely, you're 100% right. I think if people want to get started, just think a little differently about how you want to get to where you want to go. If your goal is to buy your dream house, right? I want to buy my dream house and provide my family this great home. There's a couple ways you can get there, right? You can buy a single family and work for a few years, get a few raises, and then try to buy another one, right? Or you can buy a duplex, right? Live in half, rent the other half, take the money you would have been spending on your mortgage in that single family and just start shoving it into a savings account. You were going to spend it anyway. You were going to spend it on your mortgage on your nicer house, right? Right. But now you've got your tenant paying your mortgage for you. So just stack that money away and you can be building your down payment for your dream home while your tenant's paying your mortgage at your parent place, right?
Right.
And, you can use FHA or conventional loans over and over again. So let's say you do that. You live in a duplex for a year, right? You bought it with an FHA or a conventional loan, so you pay 3.5% to 5% down. Interest rates are super cheap right now. It's cheap
below,
to get
below 3%,
below 3%, right?
Recording, yeah.
So you can get a loan, live in your house for a year, right? Live in your duplex for a year, and then go do it again, right?
Yeah.
And the next year. So then 2 years down the road, you've got 2 duplexes, 4 doors that are paying you rent while paying your mortgage. So now you're making money on top of your mortgages getting paid, right? And so then when you move out of that duplex the second year, so year 3, you can now buy your dream home because you've been saving up money every month that you were going to put toward a mortgage in a savings account. Plus you've got 4 rentals that are going to pay part of your mortgage at your dream house. So now you're living in your dream house, you got your down payment for your dream house, and you got 2 other properties, 4 units paying for, could be close to half of your mortgage for your dream house, right?
Right.
And now you got there in 3 years instead of 5, right? Most people put together a 5-year plan to get to their dream home. So you just got to think a little differently. You can get there.
Yeah. And it certainly is going to be, a little bit of being uncomfortable in the process, because that's just the way it is. But if you're willing to weather that, the results are outstanding and the payoff is tremendous. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about your T-shirt that you're wearing. I know I saw that generational wealth acquiring property. What's the bottom part of it say?
That's just my business logo.
Okay.
Group. Yeah. So we put these shirts together just, the reminder, right? The reason we got into this was to acquire cash flowing assets in order to build generational wealth, right? And improve our community. That's our goal. That's our mission. And so we kind of put together the shirts to, advertise that and just keep that reminder out front.
Yeah. Now, you have your real estate broker's license?
No, I don't have a license.
Oh, okay.
No,
So you work, you have another agent that you work with when you do need an agent?
When I need an agent, I use an agent to sell property. So if I'm going to flip a house, I have an agent that's going to sell them. Sure. I usually just buy on my own, but if I need to buy with an agent, I do have one that I use.
I think that's a misnomer. A lot of people think they have to go get their real estate license in order to do this, Correct. But you really don't. All of
Correct.
The top real estate people that I've run across that have done a lot of buying and selling, a lot of them have never had a real estate license. Yeah. But, once you get familiar with it, you get familiar with the contracts, you get familiar with the purchase and sales and everything else and involved with that, you have some familiarity with the process. So it becomes a little
Absolutely.
Easier for you. So tell me a little bit about this. What propelled you to decide to put together this this little book that you've worked on, and I guess it's coming out soon. It's How to Finance Deals with Little to No Money Out of Pocket Utilizing Small Banks.
Correct.
What first of all, what propelled you to want to do this? And secondly, is this an actual book that people will be able to purchase?
It's an e-course, right?
It's an e-course. Okay.
Yeah,
like everything else nowadays, we're all doing stuff online virtually. So
that's right. It's a virtual course. You'll be able to purchase the course, and you'll have lifetime access to it. And even as I make updates throughout the lifetime of this course, the people who have bought the course will get access to all those updates. And so, yeah, man, I wanted to. So one of the things that I didn't quite understand when I first got started, it took me some time to figure out, is like the financing aspect. Like, I knew I could go find a property, right? Whether I call a realtor or go find it on my own. Like, I know I can go get a property, right?
Right.
But if I want to do this at some level of scale, right? How do people finance all of this? Like, how does that come to be? There has to be some way that people are doing all this. And the answer to that question is there's multiple ways people are doing it. But what has really helped me is being able to leverage small local community banks right here in Northwest Arkansas, who have been just a tremendous asset to my business and helped me really scale. And there's the information that I'm providing people isn't like super secret information. It's all information that you can go and find out on your own. But there was really no like one place for me to go and try to like understand from a real estate investor's perspective of like what these types of financing tools look like. And so I thought, why not just take all of the lessons that I've learned and some example deals that I've done utilizing these financing tools and just kind of package it up for people to kind of see who are in a similar boat as me. And so that's all it is. It's just my best practices for how to talk to lenders, right? How to be prepared, for when you approach a lender looking for financing for your deal, and both to understand that like a lender who's going to lend you or to say it differently, like if you're going to buy an investment property, there are lenders and loan products that are specifically designed for real estate investors to buy and rehab properties. Like, I didn't know that when I got started. Like, I didn't know that existed. And so it's just, all the tips and tricks that I've learned of how to, locate these types of financing options, how to speak to the banks, how to be prepared when you walk in the door to a bank, right? To let them know that you are a serious investor and that they won't be wasting their time talking to you. You want to establish a long-term banking relationship that's going to be mutually beneficial for the both parties. When you're young, semi-young, and African American, right? You can walk in. It can be intimidating to walk into these establishments and start asking questions that you might not be prepared for, or prepared for the answers, or prepared to know what answers to give. And so I just want to arm people with all the information that they need in order to first understand what options are available to them, and then B, how to be prepared to take advantage of those options.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, just what you're describing, I mean, knowledge is power. And when you have that knowledge, then you're able to do things that you didn't even think were possible. And it's just by virtue of taking advantage of that. And it's not so much a lot, like you said, a lot of this has already been set in stone. And I mean, my friend Mark Zweig, who I referenced earlier, has purchased a number of properties in this area along these same lines. And some of them he did a favor to the bank just by taking them off their hands. And it almost sounds crazy. Like, why would a bank give away property? But a bank is in the business not to hold property. Right. And most people don't understand that, right? And that's why I say the bank doesn't want your house. They want you to pay your note and keep moving on from there. The last thing they want to do is add another home to their portfolio outside of it being just outside of them just collecting a payment for a mortgage. Right. So they definitely don't want the property itself. And a lot of times banks end up holding these properties, having to inventory these properties,
Yes.
and they don't necessarily want to do that. So I can only imagine what this is like, and I definitely want to try to take advantage of this training that you're going to offer. When will this come out? When will this e-course come out?
October, it'll be a Tuesday, October 27th.
Okay. All right. Not to put you on the spot, but we're all going to be expecting that. And I'm going to have to put that in the show notes so that people can access that and be able to take advantage of your course.
And I want it, it's super affordable. I want it to be affordable. So I'm offering it for half price during the pre-sale. So you can buy it now.
Okay.
And you won't receive it obviously until it's released, but you can get it for half the price now.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, there you go. So yeah, I'll be sure to kind of share with individuals that follow us, and maybe we'll put it out on social media so people can get that. And I'll get the link from you so that that folks can access this course. Is the link easy to remember? Do you have it right now?
It is. No, it's a short link, but it's a much
okay. All right. Well, I'll get it from you and add it to our show notes, and I'll also push it out on social media so that our audience of folks.
You can access it if you go to my Instagram. There's a link in my bio that'll take you right to it.
Right, and that's at Independence Realty Group. That's it's on Instagram at Independence Realty Group. So you can check that out, and it'll come up, and you'll see a white logo there, and it shows up as Springdale, Arkansas. So, man, that's awesome. So what's next for Henry? What are you hoping to do next or conquer? Now, are you still working at Walmart or?
No, I left Walmart back in April. I now work for they call it a fund, right? So it's the company that raises funds from investors and then goes out and buys apartment communities.
Sure.
And then provides return on investment to those investors based on the cash flow from those apartment communities. So I help them manage their properties.
So I wanted to get into. It's almost like a real estate investment trust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Similar. Yes.
Similar.
So yeah. I wanted to get into doing real estate full time, whether that meant full time for me or just full time in general. I just want to immerse myself in real estate at all times.
Yeah. And I'm glad this is the other question that I was going to have for you, because one of the challenges that I think a lot of people are small time investors or, first time investors buying a home, their concern is, we watch. See, like HGTV has like ruined us, right? When it comes to that. If you watch Tariq and Christina on Flip This House and all these other shows, and they make it look so easy that it can all be done in a half hour, an hour. The reality is it's not that easy. So if you could talk just a little bit about some of the concerns that people have about being able to employ and even find the trades necessary to do work. Because it's one thing to buy a property, it's a whole nother thing to rehab that property.
Correct.
And if you don't have the resources, or if you don't have access to tremendous people that can do it, carpenters, plumbers, HVAC folks, and I mean the list of drywall people, the list goes on and on and on. How do you handle that? And what would your advice be to people about that part of the process?
Yeah, absolutely. My background in construction prior to investing was that I didn't have any. So if I have to put a hammer to it, it probably doesn't need to be lived in. It's not safe, right? I'm not that guy, right? Yeah. So I was in that boat that you're talking about. Like, I had a property under contract, and I got to figure out how I'm going to find somebody to work on that. And what I would tell people is, if you're in that boat, like, you don't have that knowledge, you need to be around people who do, right? Yeah. Or be around people who know people who do. And so I think one of the keys to success in any business, in any industry, is to surround yourself with like-minded people, to surround yourself with successful, like-minded people. So if you're going to be investing in real estate, right, and rehabbing properties, you need to be around other investors, right? Because if you're around other investors, they're going to know people. They're going to have contractors that they've used. They're going to have subcontractors that they've used, or that they know that other people have used, right? And so that's how I found people to work on my properties, was talking to other investors, getting recommendations, and then vetting those sources, right? And through those channels, I've been able to find several great subcontractors that I like and that I use for all my projects. Finding a general contractor is tough. Someone to manage a job just in general for you can be difficult because everybody works differently, everybody operates differently. But finding people within those trades, the trades under a general contractor, the plumbers, the electricians, like, you can find those people. You'll find who you work with the best and who responds to you the best. Like, it's a lot of trial and error. If I told you that it's all worked perfectly and smoothly from the rehab perspective, I'd be lying to you. I've had people, walk off a job and take some of my money with them. Right. Mm-hmm. I've had people, just do a bad job on some things, and it's trial and error. But, if you're surrounding yourself with people who are successful at this, they're going to be able to point you to the right tradesmen that are going to be able to help you get started, and then just build relationships from there.
Yeah. And that's a good point. And I think the other point is that sometimes you're going to pay a little extra for the right work, but
Absolutely.
Trust me, that extra little bit that you pay is going to pale in comparison to all the heartache that you would have if you try to cut corners, by getting the deal with somebody. It's like, a good painter is going to cost some money, but they're going to save you money in how they paint and how they, it's just little things. I mean, there's a science behind it. It's the same thing with every trade person that I have met here, I work with still to this day. Most of them were introduced to me by my friend Mark that I mentioned, and but these are all excellent individuals. They are crafts people. They know what they're doing. And I make sure I pay them right away. I make sure there's no delays or anything like that. And these are the kind of people where if there's something wrong, they'll come back and fix it. But, I'm handing them a check even before they ask for it, because that's how you can keep people coming back. And they're gonna take your jobs before they take anybody else's, because they know they're not going to have to wait months and months and months. And I have built a real good rapport with several tradespeople in this area, and you live and die by them for sure. So
absolutely, that is key. If they do a good job, keep them paid, keep them happy, they'll keep coming back to you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So we got this E class coming up next. What else is in the books for you? You were talking about, you mentioned a 5-year plan earlier. Are you guys already into your single family home, or is that the next step for you?
Yeah, no, we just closed on our dream house 3 or 4 months ago. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. I did exactly what I was telling other people to do. We bought a duplex, and then we ended up we were going to buy a second duplex, and then we ended up buying a single family home that we were going to flip. But we ended up keeping it and renting it out because we got great rent for it. And, because we leveraged those couple of properties, it helped us get to our dream home. And I got here a whole lot quicker than I would have, had I continued down the route I originally started. So.
Yeah. And I don't think it takes as long as people think it takes, 2 years, a year. I mean, heck, since this pandemic has started back in January, this time has flown by. We're already in the 10th month of 2020. And obviously this year can't end fast enough, but there are a lot of good things that have come out of it. So,
absolutely.
I certainly, can appreciate that. And I think if anybody's willing to set a goal for themselves of doing something like this, and just like you said, going to the meetups, if you go to meetup.com, you can find out about all kinds of local real estate meetups. You can go on Facebook. I'm sure you have friends or people that you can connect with that can tell you about different real estate groups. And the thing that I have found about these, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these groups, people aren't sitting around like, oh, I'm not going to share any information with anybody else, because it's not like, everybody's been doing this all over the country. People know this. It's whether you put it into practice or not is a whole different story.
Right.
So I could share with you all of this holy grail information. If you don't do anything with it, it doesn't matter. But once you start doing something with it, that's when you can really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's the action that's going to get you there. And people are happy to share, man. Real estate investors love talking about all their successful investments, man.
Absolutely.
That's out there. And competition is healthy, man. Food trucks do better when there's other food trucks around, right? Like it's about like, how do you build each other up and support each other. And just like my criteria to buy a home might not be your criteria to buy a home. Right. So, but I'm out here finding deals, and I may find things that benefit you. Right. You may find things that benefit me. So us working together and keeping each other in mind as we're coming across things that maybe we don't want to buy, man, we can grow each other's business. So, yeah, it's a great place. Investor meetups are a great place to just network and share. And that's how I met my business partner, who I own almost half my properties with, to this day.
And that's another good option too. I mean, you don't always have to go it alone, Right. Sometimes people can, I've had some friends that there were two partners, and, one had a little bit deeper pockets than the other, but the other had the time to go out and do the investigation. And so they came together, and they just, every deal they put together, it was, somebody was bird dogging it and somebody was investing, and it was just kind of like that. And because, that's just how it is. So, so there's all kinds of options as far as that's concerned.
Also, that's another way for people to overcome the not understanding the construction side of the business.
Yeah,
I partnered up with somebody who had a background in construction, and matter of fact, now he runs his own construction company or rehab company right here in Northwest Arkansas. So, finding a partner that has the qualities that you lack is another way to overcome those things.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I love that. I love that. So if people want to get in touch with you, Henry, what's the best way? I mean, we're going to put your Instagram handle in the show notes, and I'll get that link from you for the e-course. But if people want to reach out to you, if they have any questions, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, obviously Instagram, send me a DM. I'll try to answer everybody. And you can also email me at JJW, A as an apple, SH 45@gmail.com. That's jjwash45@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Let's connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he will get back to you folks, because he got back to me pretty quickly, and I was glad and appreciative of him connecting with me. And that's how we got him on this podcast. So I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just lastly, for our audience here, especially those that are, what do you like to do? You've been here 10 years, so you've been here twice as long as I have. But what do you like to do when you're not riding around town, spying out property and doing great stuff with your wife? What do you enjoy doing here in Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, man, I spent majority of my life playing basketball. So I did a lot of playing pickup ball and playing in rec leagues. Sure. In and around, all around Northwest Arkansas. I did that for a while. I haven't done it as much since I've been doing the investing, but I still enjoy getting out and playing ball every once in a blue moon. And then we're just, before COVID, we just enjoy getting out and enjoying the restaurant scene. There's just tons of great restaurants, and it was just like really booming and exploding right before COVID hit. So we haven't really gone out much since COVID, but when things die down, we want to get back out and just enjoy this community, man. It's just kind of this melting pot of all these different people, and they bring all these different flavors. And so the restaurant scene is amazing here. Yeah. We're not super outdoorsy people, so we don't get outdoors and go hiking and all that stuff. But we just like the kind of small town feel, but still plenty to do, man.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely different than California, and different than the Hampton Roads area there in Virginia. So, but no, Northwest Arkansas is a special place. So I'm certainly glad you're here, and I appreciate you sharing your story with our audience. I think they're really going to be benefited by what you have to share, and I'm sure some folks are going to reach out to you. So if you do end up reaching out to Henry, let him know that you heard about him first here on the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. We would really appreciate that. But Henry Washington, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate having you. Enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I was excited today to have this particular episode done. I hope you learned a little bit from what Henry's doing, and certainly I want to encourage you, if you are in the market to do some real estate or do some real estate investing in the near future, you want to learn a little bit more about it and maybe not make as many mistakes as some other people have had to make, definitely check out Henry's e-course. It's coming out October 27th. We will, regardless of when this episode comes out, we'll make sure that there is a link in the show notes so that you can get a copy of, you can order that and you can purchase it and support what he's doing right here in Northwest Arkansas. And if anything else, a lot of times we read books about people doing real estate investing in different parts of the country. But if you're in this area, you might as well get what his program is talking about, because it's his frame of reference is Northwest Arkansas. So he's not talking about some other part of the country. He's talking about what he's been able to do and how he's been successful here. So I really want to encourage you to get that when it does become available. And secondly, I want to also just give a shout out to our other sponsor, Next Level 7. If you want to figure out a way to build your perfect business, Next Level 7 is the best option for you. If you've ever thought about starting your own business or giving your current business a real tune-up, you need to check out Next Level 7. Take some lessons from the master, Brian Clark. He happens to be a friend of mine, but Brian has built not one, but two 8-figure businesses from scratch and sold them. And so we use Brian's training here at I Am Northwest Arkansas as we continue to grow this business and another business that I run, and it has really transformed how we do business. So you can get a free course today of the Next Level 7 program and be a part of the entrepreneurial movement right here in the Ozarks. And I will make sure that you can get access to that. The information for Next Level 7 is in our show notes, and just check it out and let us know if you have any questions. As always, our episodes come out every Monday. We really appreciate you guys listening to I Am Northwest Arkansas. Continue to spread the news about this podcast. If you have an Alexa app, you can listen to the podcast right there. Our podcasts are found wherever great podcasts can be found. We would appreciate a rating or review on whatever format that you listen to this podcast. And we thank you for sharing this information with your friends as those people that you talk to that are potentially moving here or learning more about Northwest Arkansas. Let them know about the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. That's all I have for you this week, but I will be back next week with a brand spanking new episode for you. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I will see you next week. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.